You go inside with me? Want to go work? Let's do it. Hey friends, I am in my studio today for a couple of hours, and it's the cleanest it's been in a while. And I thought it would be fun to give you a little studio tour. This is a space that I have been in for a little over 3 years. In my 18 plus years of being a professional artist, it is my first away from home studio. I've had dreams of one for a long time. I've wondered what it would be like. I would wish for one. But about 3 years ago, our season of life sort of shifted and it became less of a dream and more of a necessity. And lots of really cool doors opened up for me to be in this space. It's a perfect space for me. It has served me very well. And it's been through a few incarnations of organization and workflow, but I think I've mostly settled in to what works right now with the furniture and storage and stuff that I have and need right now. So I thought I would just, give you a little looky-loo. Let me just forewarn you. I'll just forewarn you now. It is not an exquisitely beautiful, styled space. It's very utilitarian. There are some little vignettes here and there that I think are beautiful because I do want to feel really good when I walk into my studio. I want to feel like there's things in here that I love looking at that are here just because I love them. So my space is a mix of little chunks of beauty surrounded by lots of utilitarian workspace, lots of utilitarian storage. For years, I tried storing my paints and things in beautiful containers that you couldn't see through. And then it was out of sight, out of mind for me. So I have learned that clear plastic containers work really well for me. Things out in the open work really well for me. So instead of trying to make it look like how I think other people might think it looked beautiful, I decided to just make it look beautiful for me in that the beauty is in how well it functions for me more than anything. So I really, really encourage people to create their spaces, whether it's their home or their studios or anything, to feel good when they walk into them. And I also highly encourage them to decide for themselves what that means. So for me, feeling good when I walk into my studio, first and foremost, is a clean studio. And it's not always clean, but I do like to keep it as tidy as possible. Some of you that have worked with me before in my classes and whatnot, my art classes over the years, have heard me tell the story that I was visiting a friend once who had this really beautiful home. This was way back in the day when we were, renting this cute little cottage, which was adorable. But I remember thinking, dang, I wish I had a nice house like this lady. And she had all this nice stuff in it, all these beautiful antiques. And I complimented her on it, and she felt about her home like I felt about mine, which was mind-boggling to me, which was, it's not quite good enough. That's how she felt. But she said to me, thanks, there's a lot of things I wish were different, but if I can't have my fancy home, I can at least have a clean home. And that stuck with me. That's my motto in life. That's my motto with my studio. And so I do try to keep it tidy and clean and really functioning well for me. And the result is that I maintain a lot of gratitude for this space. Anyway, I will stop yapping now and I'll give you the tour. So you see, first thing when I walk in, there is a dividing wall here, which I have a love-hate relationship with because it kind of limits how I can arrange things, but it also creates what I call my clean space and my messy space. It's not a huge studio. I think it's about 400 square feet. And when I moved in, it had really ugly, worn, dated, dark teal Berber carpet, commercial carpet. I asked the landlord, can I just tear it out so that I just have raw concrete to work on? It's actually not raw. I did seal it. This was the biggest job ever. It was way more work than I thought it was going to be. It took me a good couple of weeks of coming down here every day for a few hours and just working on this concrete floor, but I love it now. The other thing I really love about the space is I have these really big windows. So I get a lot of good light, and that to me is the biggest benefit of this space. I have a large work table. I've had different work tables over the years that I've been here. This one is my current favorite. You can see I have some things that I love. It stores a lot of miscellaneous random things. This is a cabinet that I've had for years. I think I bought it at a yard sale and I've just always loved it. I just love little wood cabinets. So this is one of those things I keep dragging around, and it does store, like right now I have a bunch of photographs that I use in art. And this corner ends up being just a really useful corner for awkward stuff like my lights, my camera stand that you can see back there, my air conditioner. So I've just surrendered to that being a utilitarian only corner. It is right next to the best place in the world to take a power nap. That's my little roomie. He likes to hang out with me wherever I go, and that's his favorite spot to nap. This is a table I made probably 20 years ago. It was a garden table. It's been a temporary kitchen island. It has been so many things over the years. And then these I bought a couple of years ago after debating for a long time, because I don't love highly reflective surfaces. Like, I'm not a fan of glass top tables or, things like that. But I also needed something that I could stand at. I needed something that would clean really easily. I have a lot of wax mess from my encaustic medium, and of course paint messes, glue messes, and I needed something that I could easily clean. And so I finally just bit the bullet, bought 2 of these, and I chose the kind that don't have the backsplash to it, so that if I wanted to pull them out into the middle of the room and have them be more like an island workspace, I could do that. But so far I've had them up against this wall. They're 2 6-foot tables, and they have worked so well. And so you can see a lot of just utilitarian essentials that I keep on hand. I go through a lot of plaster, and so it's easiest for me to just keep it in a bucket. It kind of contains the powder mess that it makes, but it keeps it easily accessible for me. This is a surplus bin of encaustic stuff, miscellaneous brushes. It's open, I can see it, it's easy to access. If I don't use it every day, this is a good way for me to store it. And I don't want to bore you with every little bin, but I'll just give you a quick glimpse here of how I like to keep my stuff out. But it really works well for me to have stuff out where I can see it, I can easily grab it. I've got my way more plastic spreaders than I need. Tapes, inks, pens, pastels and watercolors, acrylic tube paints, substrates that are in various stages of being worked on. Then I have my encaustic skillet. Just having it out and handy and accessible is what works for me. I also have my gessos out. These, whenever I order these online, the buckets that they come in are always busted, so I always have to transfer them to something else. So that's why they're in boring old Ace Hardware containers. And then, of course, my tools that I use, palettes, heat gun, all sorts of brushes, scratchy tools, glues, gel mediums, matte mediums, gessos, house paint, more house paint. These are different books. Some I've made. This is one that I made with beautiful 140 pound watercolor paper. And then there's some sketchbooks, different books that people have gifted me or that I've picked up along the way. And then the further away from reach goes the stuff that I don't need as often. Projects in the works, miscellaneous carbon papers, tracing papers, tissue papers, etc. And then one of my favorite features of this space that we did a while back is this, you can sort of see the edge of it, this giant plywood wall. It's normally just a sheetrock wall. I wanted something a little more sturdy, something that I could just take off when I left. And so we installed 2 pieces of plywood. I painted them. I have lines on them to help me hang things level. And that's my favorite space for working on big paintings. This kind of moves around. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's another corner, but this is my rolling cart full of different paper stuff. I could have 10 times this much paper. But what was happening was I was getting so much paper collected that I couldn't remember anything. It was too much to try to go through when I was working on a piece. I would end up defaulting to the same few piles. And so for now, I'm kind of in the season of like, this is enough paper. If I can keep this much paper, I'm good enough. I'm happy with that. But I love having the mobility of this and the visibility here. So this space that I've just shown you, this is basically where I make my messy art. This is where the plaster is thrown around. This is where paint's thrown around and caustic medium is applied. This is where the messy work happens. So now I'll show you the clean work. And by clean, it's just a different kind of messy. This is where I store, this is my office space, but it's also where I have all my sewing stuff and I store all of my fabric, all of that kind of mess. So it's like fibery mess, not wet liquid medium mess. I love old wooden boxes too. This one's currently empty, but I could store something if I wanted. I used to have 2 full units like this full of fabric, and I have pared it so far down, it's ridiculous. I still have more fabric than I'm gonna get to in years, although it rotates, right? I use stuff and then I buy more and then I use some and buy more. But I love sewing is one of my like soul nourishing things to do. So it just feels so good to me to have all of this easily accessible and available. And of course, you know, mom's pin cushion made out of a jar lid. I remember this from my childhood. My stepdad recently gave it to me when he was going through some of her stuff. So that was a fun little treasure to get. All sorts of sewing accoutrement, all the little notions, books, patterns, fabric dye, all of that kind of stuff is in this shelf. And I love it so much. And I hate this chair so much, but it functions. These are pieces, like some vintage pieces and found pieces. And then I made this piece. These are all pieces that are eventually going to go in a quilt. For one of my daughters, she requested that I make her a quilt with this in it. This is a linen half square triangle patch I made just to get started, and that'll be fun to complete. This monster is a very, very heavy, very, very useful industrial sewing machine. There we go. Got the box off. This is a heavy duty leather working machine, and a lot of fun leather things have been made on this. I keep it covered up just to keep it a little cleaner, but it is an awesome machine. I can't bear the thought of never having it. So I have to kind of relearn how to use it every time because I don't use it often enough. And then this is stuff like small scraps of fabrics that would just get lost in some of the big bins. So this is something that works for me, but it was also kind of frustrating to always have like little bins of miscellaneous, you know. So now what I'm trying to do is use this stuff up more. And then this is another project bin. This is a quilt in process that I'm making for my other daughter, and all of the pieces that I'm kind of pulling from to make this quilt. And then I have my metal smithing stuff that I'm not currently using very often, but I have it all accessible. Office stuff, shipping stuff. It's a tower of stuff. Next to my computer, do some admin work here. And of course, some of my favorite art pieces. I love having some of my friends work with me, watching over me while I work. And just little notes and reminders and sentimental pieces from friends. You know, lots of special things, lots of utilitarian things, lots of creative allowing things, lots of things that allow me to just at any point do something fun, something that feels good, make something, paint something, create something. And because of that, the space is really treasured to me. Oh, look at the light coming in the window all of a sudden on January. I mean, come on. I'm so grateful for that. I just really appreciate having this space. So there you have it. This is my studio. I've just shown you all the nooks and crannies and the bins and the piles and the boxes and the containers and the buckets and all of the things that help me come in here and just explore whatever ideas are on my mind. I'm so grateful to have this space. It has served our family well. It has served me well. It has served my creativity well. One of my favorite things to do is to gather down here with other people and work on stuff, do stuff together. We have a big photo project my husband and I are about to undertake. You know, when you've got decades of photos that you haven't sorted, they're just in a bin. And so not only is it a creative space where a lot of energy happens, it also has turned out to be this place to just exhale before you completely settle in for the night. So I love this space. It's been good. it's kind of in a constant state of evolution. So if anything major changes, I'll do another studio tour, I'll show you. But I wanted to give you a glimpse at where I do the work that you'll see in other videos, where I make the art, all of that kind of stuff. This is probably a background you'll see a lot because this is the best lighting. It's the best I got in this space. So thanks for joining me on the studio tour, and we will see you next time.